Alrighty, good evening and welcome to the CREEDCAST. It is Thursday, the 9th of July, so that means it is squad show time. Your Port Adelaide Footy Club is taking on St Kilda Footy Club on Saturday afternoon, basically fucking morning in my view. Is it's just the last couple of weeks, well, this week in particular is just a early time compared to what we've become used to in the last few months. But yes, St Kilda on Saturday afternoon, early afternoon, 12:45 p.m. for us here in South Australia. We'll get into the preview of it shortly, talking about the ins and outs. Well, there's really only an in and an out on our side, but we'll talk about that shortly. But just wanted to touch on a couple of things before we get into the preview side of things. But before we do that, good evening, Jamie. A nice chilly July evening for us here, trying to warm ourselves up with a couple of local beverages. But good evening, mate. How are we doing?
Hello everyone. Tuning in wherever you may be on this fine day that you're tuning in. Yes, I am indulging in just for the people playing at home and for those on YouTube, a Uradler Cloud Break. There we go. It's been a while since I've actually had a alcoholic beverage on pod. I'm usually rocking a Milo for those, again, playing at home who see my Port Adelaide mug on YouTube. And my mug.
Adelaide
What
mug?
a
Which
mug.
one?
Yeah. So, nice change of pace. I wish 12:45 in the afternoon felt like morning to me, but it hasn't been that way in about 5 years. So the joys of early parenthood.
Yes.
But it is early. And after a swathe of night games, we've been indulged in a couple of ones where the sun's still shining, so I'm looking forward to it. But we've got other things to chat about first.
Absolutely. Yes, of course. I mean, the first thing to do is to talk about, of course, it's NAIDOC week this week, which is a very, very important week, and one that I'm glad Port Adelaide is taking the turn to wear their Indigenous Guernsey from this year again. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the home one behind me hanging in the background, but we're wearing a very, very tasty looking reverse of this one, essentially just replacing the black background with the white background for a Clash Guernsey, but still wearing the design. And it's something that I've enjoyed in the past few years that Port Adelaide have done. Obviously, just in making sure we keep putting forward the message of reconciliation and understanding with the First Nations people and the rightful owners of this land that was stolen. It was not Terra Nullius, but anyway, we wear the Guernsey and keep pushing forward these stories and understanding of just the First Nations people that make this game so great that we love. And of course, the Guernsey this week, just obviously there's a lot more important things around why we wear these Guernseys, but just for the aesthetic of it too. It's a beautiful Guernsey, and I think it's only the last few years that we've actually had a reverse of it. I think the first 8 or 9 years of wearing an Indigenous Guernsey for Sir Doug Nicholls' round was just one version of it, but it's been the last 2 or 3 years we've often had a reverse and a Clash version of it, and they've always done a design that works very, very well for it. I'm very excited to see how this one looks on field, and kind of wish I don't know if I've missed it. I don't think they're out for retail, and of course that's not the most important thing. But just as a Guernsey collector myself, I'm sure they'll obviously do the auction for the player worn ones, but those are often outside of the purview of my wallet's budget as much as my brain screams out, or sorry, my heart screams out, buy one, buy one. I don't, because it would be fiscally irresponsible of me. And shout out to all the Guernsey, the game worn Guernsey collectors out there. I love what you do. But just it's nice to be wearing this beautiful Guernsey again, a beautiful design that it was, and I love the away version of it.
As do I, and I think it's a nice way to circumvent the rules in that the AFL has in regards to their numbered policy on how many different strips you can wear in a year. And I suppose like a inverse of the Sir Doug Nicholls round may not count for an extra Guernsey. I don't know. And we obviously already take one of those as the prison bar each year, and then, you know, we get a bit creative at Port Adelaide. But no, it's great. It looks good. I'm confident that it'll look good on ground under the lid at Marvel on Saturday. But like you mentioned about NAIDOC or NAIDOC week, whatever your proclivity may be, it's the storytelling. It's the learning about the land in which we exist. And my uncle is actually on country right now in the middle of the desert. And they actually had a land returning ceremony. The government actually, returning land back to the custodians, the original custodians. So that's great. Very interesting. There's a piece about it on the ABC Kimberley Facebook page. So it's just great. Yeah, obviously our family who have made different connections with different countries, Aboriginal countries, First Nations countries. So have some familial ties. Not that I am of First Nations lineage, but yeah, obviously family members who take a keen interest, whether it be through work or in their personal lives, to head out to country and get to know the people that live in those communities. And all I've ever heard are positive things about the experiences that they've had. And in this day and age of technology and whatnot, funnily enough, we're obviously recording a podcast, multi-platformed, but on top of everything else and the experiences and the stories and the learning opportunity, it's just good to break away from 21st century reality. And that's not to say that people are living in, caves or anything like that, but obviously have a better connection to their country and their land and their community, and actually, spend time doing things that are a bit more productive than doom scrolling, as a lot of us are probably culprits of in this day and age.
Yeah, definitely a culprit of it. And I've been trying to do those things to try to get me away from it. But it is, it is a very good salient point that, some cultures and different communities around the world, whether it be here or around the world, have a better, just more rooted understanding and good relationship with the planet, which is something we should all get to. But and certainly in Australia, the First Nations people, often the ones that actually have a good understanding of what this country is, we have, and we should probably listen to them a little bit more and reconcile with all of that. So that's what these kind of weeks are all about. And of course we revel in the aesthetics of the Guernseys, but there is always a good thing to good stories and understanding to read into behind it. And it's always worth checking in with the Port Adelaide Indigenous programs. Do incredible things in continuing to further Port Adelaide's connection with that as well, whether it be their programs, players going up into those countries as well. But it's always worth remembering just and being prideful of Port Adelaide's connection to that history and whatnot as well. So looking forward to seeing the Guernseys on the field this week. One more thing before we get to the actual game, one more thing on the Guernsey front is Port Adelaide announced, and I guess it's a two-part announcement. Obviously, the main part of the announcement this week was announced on the Instagram and the socials that they're going to be doing a design competition for Port Adelaide's Gather Round Guernsey in 2027. So it's like a two-part announcement, is that we will have a fresh original Guernsey for 2027 Gather Round. It already just means that there's something new coming. And of course, is also an announcement that there's a competition going on that they're actually going to select something from submissions made, which is great. So all the budding Guernsey designers out there, get your designs in. We've all got fond memories of some of the Planet Till Guernseys out there, and of course our current home strip that we've been wearing for well over a decade now is originally from a Planet Till design competition as well. So there's a lot of history in Port Adelaide Guernseys now that comes from design competitions. But of course, it does mean that we get a modern something cool for Gather Round that's going to come from a design competition. And in 2026, there's so many more designers out there than there was back when, whatever, it sounds like, hey, I was just like, whether it be kids on notepads back in 2006, 2007 for the Planet Teal ones. But now there's just so many actual good, like, not that those were bad. I'm trying to not denigrate those ones because I actually have good memories of those. But now there is such a wealth of Guernsey designers out there, and it's really interesting to see what might come of this. We've, of course, we were just talking off air, and I mentioned it on air, the Instagram account at Cairn Port, which is one I've had a long time following of, and I'm sure a lot of Port fans listening, yourself, Jamie, and a lot of people have. I've had some interaction. I don't know who they are, him, her, or they. I don't know who they are, but I've had some interactions with them over there, and they've always just one of those good energy Port accounts that is always pretty positive about Port. They've put out a Guernsey design, which is basically a stealth version of our 2004 to 2006 away Guernsey with the lightning bolt through the middle, one of the most popular ones ever created for Port Adelaide, and harkens back to a time of great dominance of Port Adelaide history. And it's essentially, instead of the teal backing and the white lightning bolt, it's a black backing and a teal lightning bolt. It's a stealth version of that. And I'm already just on board for that. I said to you off air, I said, Futurama, take my money. And that's where I'm at. But I'm also really interested to see what else people come up with, because there could be something, a design idea I haven't even thought of out there as well.
It's going to be hard to beat in my mind. I saw it, and like I said to you, I'm pretty sure it's been shared previously. I believe, and I said to you pre-recording, I believe when we wore the 04 to 06 lightning bolt strip, I'm pretty sure whether it was them or someone else redesigned that stealth version and put it up. And I remember thinking it was awesome back then, and then Cairn Port has kind of reshared it and submitted it, I suppose. So it must have been them when I saw it the first time, and it just rejigged that memory. It's a very good looking Guernsey, a very black heavy, much like the Invincibles Guernsey. I'm on board. Absolutely. Very, very black heavy Guernseys. My cup of tea for sure. I saw one, I don't know if it was actually a submission, but I saw one today, and it had the Largs Pier Hotel. Like, I saw that for anyone who's seen, yeah. Actually, one of the board nominees from earlier this year, Justin Leckie, was who I saw it shared from. This is kind of teal, but then the Largs Pier is kind of black and whitish, and has a bit of a prison bar vibe, but it's obviously the arches of the Largs Pier Hotel, which was kind of cool, kind of funny. Obviously, yeah, the lightning bolt stealth version still tops the pops for me. But yeah, I love that you brought up that our current Guernsey was actually the winner of a Guernsey design competition way back when, and it initiated the Back in Black theme, like campaign or whatnot, and that's what we transitioned to. The chevrons was off the back of that, and just another reason, it was a competition, but, connection to community, which is what us Port Adelaide fans all love. And our Guernsey is a representation of that. It was designed by, I think it was a junior competition. You said Planet Teal, so that would suggest
it was a junior. Yeah, it was always a junior one, which I think was such a great initiative they did at the time. That should be called it. But you did mention Guernsey rules and numbers that you can wear in a year. So whether you could do that, but it would be cool to do it again. But this is actually allowing an avenue for all, whether you be 5 years old or 50, to have a crack at it too. So it is essentially.
And like you said, a lot of designers who love just playing around with different graphics and whatnot. Probably in this, there's probably a lot of people who already have Guernsey designs just sitting there, waiting for the opportunity such as this. So I look forward to seeing them all, like you said. But yeah, maybe this will encourage our next home Guernsey, because we can't have enough Guernseys to throw back to. Cue hate from opposition supporters. But no, I'm looking forward to it all.
Yeah, the opposition supporters are like, remember Magenta? And I'm like, yeah, I remember that heritage Guernsey as well.
And we'll probably throw it back at some stage. Yeah.
I want one. It's still one of my grail. My grail for the Monty Python fans out there. pieces that I want is one of the Nike versions of, whether it be retail or player one, I don't care. I just want one of the magenta, that Guernsey that we wore in, I can't remember which year, was that 2006? Anyway, one of those ones that we wore back then, because we don't shy away from our history as much as opposition fans want to say. But yeah, that Cairnport one would be tough to beat. A couple of the other ones I've seen pop around already. Cairnport shared like a little on their Instagram story of a few other designs, the Largs Pier one being one of them, which is, I'd fucking buy it because I love the Largs Pier Hotel. I've been there for a few years. I've been there for a meal, and I think it's just one of the most aesthetically beautiful pubs in the world.
It really is.
I would buy that one. Yeah, and it's port country, of course. So there's a lot of meaning there. There was one that was simply the base design that Port put up on the Instagram to base your design on. Someone had just put Justin Westhoff's head on there, and I was like, fuck yeah, I'd buy that too. And I think there was a few different ones that were based around some teal and prison bar. There was one that had a really nice, it was prison bars, but they were lightning bolt prison bars, and then there was some lightning. So there's a few fun ones, but
I've obviously seen the alternate prison bar, add teal to the prison bar type of thing, and
I'm against
understand
those
it
mostly.
But we're in the same camp. I'm firm opposition to altering the prison bars in any way to suit anyone else, because that's not what it's about. But not going to get on a soapbox. But there are people going, and I think one guy I was on Reddit. He's like, I know no one's gonna, a lot of people don't like this, but here it is anyway.
Yeah, I appreciate the design aspect of it. I'm like, there's some good designs of it if you were going to consider it. But now, I mean, we're beyond that anyway. We get to wear it in the showdown. I'm happy with that. Of course, I still have that bullshit. We should be able to wear it whenever we want. Like, this is bullshit, but I'm okay with this, the way that we celebrate it now, and also as well as what we do with our regular Guernseys. And I think Gather Round provides you an opportunity to do something pretty cool. And I think that one that is the stealth reverse of the 04 to 06, while it's not super original in the sense of something completely original, it's still just one of the most cool looking designs.
It's eye catching.
Yeah, it's completely different in a way that is going to sell numbers, but it's also going to latch onto that nostalgia that's going to do people some. It does a lot of things, and it might come down to
it'll look sick. It'll look fucking hot in gameplay.
The one thing is, it's going to come down to the matchup, like who we get. I assume they're going to announce the winner of a competition after a schedule is announced. So I assume they're going to have to, because it's going to have to be a clash. It's going to have to work as a clash for whoever we're playing. So, but I think you'd have to be serious. Port Adelaide, admin would have to be seriously looking at that already and going, that's going to do numbers, which is what we're like. They've talked about this. They've talked about the fully charged one being one of the most popular ones they've had, in like the selling numbers on those in the first 48 hours are insane. So they're going to want to do that. And that's understandable as well. We want, the commercial side of the club has to be healthy to, the whole machine that is being a modern sporting entity. So looking forward to seeing how it goes anyway. Very, very exciting, just fun stuff, a little, especially I know you love your Guernseys, but I know you appreciate them from afar a lot and don't do what I do and have to buy everyone, which is fiscally responsible, and I'm an idiot. But I'm looking forward to buying one whenever they come out. Whatever it is, I'm probably going to buy one, and I'm sure that they're going to release one that's good. But I am early doors. I'm on the Cairnport design for that reverse. Mm-hmm. So yeah, look forward to seeing who it is, and of course, just look forward to Gather Round 2027 again. Looking forward to getting on the beers, as a former popular premier once said. Let's talk about St Kilda at Marvel. The first time, and I mentioned it to you on the podcast earlier this week, or whether it was off air and on air, I can't recall, but the first time we have played St Kilda at Marvel since the Good Boys Ken game, a very highly emotionally charged game. I remember watching it on my phone in the lineup for the Egyptian Theatre in Los Angeles for fuck knows what movie I was going to. I think it was like Love Lies Bleeding with Kristen Stewart in attendance. So it goes to show how long it's been since we've played St Kilda at Marvel. Is like I was in Los Angeles, like at a going to a movie premiere, and now we're here. So but that was a tight game. And then the last couple of games, they've had the wood on us as well. So this is a really intriguing matchup coming up for us, for a team like us that we're going for three wins in a row, but they're kind of trying to push their charge as well. It's a really really intriguing matchup for me.
It is intriguing, and it'll test the mental fortitude of Port Adelaide fans alike,
Hmm.
because it'll be that big quandary of whether to cheer for a win or whether to accept an honourable loss the in the minds of the ethical tank. Because yeah, one thing's for sure, that if Port Adelaide shows signs of getting one back, and again, this is a return leg game, a revenge game. Again, we've had a couple of those recently, because they did beat us earlier this year on our home patch, and the competitive juices will flow, and the competitive nature of elite sport means that they'll want to get their own back, Port Adelaide Football Club, that is. But we'll be sitting on the sidelines, so to speak, and just going, what do we actually want? But it is a very interesting matchup for all the bluff and bluster of that gather round fixture. I mean, there were positives and negatives up the wazoo. Obviously, the umpiring controversy that came out of the the first leg of this matchup. So it's a tantalizing prospect. Yeah, St Kilda. I mean, very similarly to North Melbourne, they North Melbourne didn't smash Essendon. St Kilda have, but we're playing these teams off the back of a win against Essendon, but prior to that, St Kilda's form very so, much like North Melbourne's 3 wins in a row before playing us was good on paper from win-loss, but very so form. So it's an interesting read from afar, and it is intriguing as to how the game will play out.
It is, yeah. St Kilda have had some kind of promising games as well. They obviously had the real close one against Sydney a few weeks ago as well, that Sydney snatched in the last half a minute. But Sydney have been an indifferent team at times in recent weeks as well. We of course in that same with I can't remember if that was before or after St Kilda. I think we played Sydney the week after that St Kilda game, and we almost snatched one from Sydney as well. So if you want to just be as binary as just going, well, we did the similar things, then it's going to be a close game. But obviously matchups all are different depending on the week and the matchups available, and of course form and the way that two teams match up. But St Kilda, just with obviously Ross Lyon coach St Kilda and some of the players they have, they just always provide a frustration for us. I mean, I'm looking at the last almost. We have to go back to 2021 for a game that went beyond uh, 24 points, and I'm looking at round 18, 2021, we won by 13 points. Round 7, 2022, we won by a point in a game that I think the Glass Table / Anthony Alessini's pair put up as one of the worst thriller of all time on their account today on Instagram. So they just played the last moments of that on their Instagram. So like 40, so one by point there. Round 7, 2023, we won by 7 points. Round 7, 2024. A lot of round 7 matchups, I'm just realizing. We won by 10 points in round 7 of 2024. Won by 2 points, of course, in that, again, the Good Boys game at Marvel in round 2016 of 2024. And then the last 2 games have been 17 and 14 points. So they've all been tight games, and it kind of, I think, goes to, sorry for the long amble there, but it goes to show, I think, the matchup that these two teams have had over the years. And of course, we're in the Josh Carr era now, and things have changed with our team. But of course, we still saw in Gather Round that there's a little bit of a clash of styles. And of course, they've got some weapons that they can damage us with. But it is going to be a big test of our defensive resolution. I guess that's a time to bring in that the one change in this matchup in either sides. Of course, St Kilda go into this game without a change. We go into this game with one change, with Brandon Zerk-Thatcher omitted and Kane Farrell coming back into the side. So It is a clash of styles, and our defense is going to be once again under the spotlight because of how good they've been this year, and it's getting a lot of talk. But they're going to. It's an interesting matchup they have with a forward line without a bunch of damaging key forward tools in the sense of some of the tools that we've had to play in the past weeks. But they've got some damage. They've got like maybe you could say they can moneyball it around with a lot of damage
Mm-hmm.
lowered to the ground, and they have done that to us in the past.
They have done it to us in the past, yeah. Relative no names. Well, for the last two matchups specifically, yeah, because I think, funnily enough, in that 2024 game, Max King was one of the last games I think he bloody has played at AFL level,
You have to
and
assume,
Brandon
yeah.
Zerk-Thatcher actually took him to the cleaners that night, or afternoon, I should say, who has been omitted, and I have seen comments, obviously, traditionalists of a two key defender setup. But when you look at the matchups, their tallest forward is about 193 centimeters, I think. Mitch Owens, Cooper Sharman, Caminiti, they've got on a back line, but obviously he's a bit of a swingman. Mason
Mhm.
Wood, they're all low 190s. So it makes perfect sense to if Kane Farrell's fit, he's a weapon. He's a senior player, but keep those utility defenders that we have in Lockie Jones, Miles Bergman, Logan Evans, Josh Lai, Darcy Byrne-Jones. It's the perfect matchup for them. And, you mentioned all the previous matchups across the years, but are we really, my mind just goes back to the one earlier this year, and the teams are relatively the same, have the same kind of key figures, except I think St Kilda have probably lost a little bit more from their top end in regards to the last time we played them. They're obviously without De Koning, they're without Sam Flanders, and they're without Sinclair. Sinclair, in particular, is a very, very good player and obviously one of their best players, and he was one of their best players in that previous matchup, which will be interesting. But obviously, they have the blue chip talent in Isaiah Wanganeen-Miller, the to-be Port Adelaide player, the future Port Adelaide player in Naz, who has just been on a tear in recent weeks. Bradley Hill turned back the clock last week in particular. So some players are kind of lifting in the absence of some of their well-known acquisitions or established players. And I mean, from a ruck point of view, Rowan Marshall would be licking his lips in a way, because he just gets to go back into what was his natural position prior to them acquiring Tom De Koning, and that's being first ruck and then being able to float forward, which he enjoyed doing for years before they made that acquisition last year. So uh, obviously we know that how Gather Round worked out, and it worked out very similarly to 2025. St Kilda got out of the blocks quickly, and then Port Adelaide had to use a lot of energy to rein it back in and try and gain ascendancy. The game earlier this year, though, we entered the match with one more scoring shot, obviously lost by 14 points, like you said, and we had 21 more inside 50s as well. So
Mhm.
you mentioned the clash of styles. It's funny how, according to Wheelo ratings, their attacking numbers are pipping us and our defensive numbers are pipping them. When historically, St Kilda, obviously under Ross Lyon, have been kind of viewed as a defensive style team. And Port Adelaide over the years has probably lacked defense and been a bit more surge mentality attacking. So a real flip of game styles from that point of view. But the game earlier this year just goes to show that even in the early stages of us kind of bedding down this defensive mindset, or strengthening our defense, I should say, because we're not hyper defensive, but we are solidifying our defensive makeup, that we can still get 20 more inside 50s than them and still outscore them from a scoring shots point of view. It's just how we convert, and obviously we won't have rain to deal with this time around.
Mhm. Yeah. The gather round rainstorms. I think I was talking to my brother on the weekend. I can't remember if you were part of that conversation or not as well, but just talking about actually how I think because I was going to the game with him and he hadn't been to too many Crows games this year, so I was just talking about how like actually the weather has been turning it on pretty well for us sport fans for most games this year. Like we've
Mm,
not had too much real adverse weather to deal with, and the
yeah.
only real one I can think of is the gather round game. And otherwise, we've just, whether it be the cool climes that we've had recently or some warmer weather earlier in the year, it's been more or less pretty good. So yeah, bringing up the gather round weather is really funny again because obviously this game isn't going to be adversely affected by the weather at all, being under the lid at Marvel. So I haven't brought it up at all. As soon as I see a game that's ticked off as Marvel, I go, well, don't need to look at the weather at all. So yeah, the styles are interesting because like St Kilda, you talked about the inside 50 numbers like the last time we played them, and dominant. It's just and it really is. It feels like often when I look at going to a game, if you see a team has more inside 50s in a game average on the year, but when we play them, often we match or beat. Like there's only been a few games this year that we've actually lost inside 50 numbers. We've actually been doing very, very well at time and possession and inside 50s. It's just they're shallow inside 50s. So it's again going to come down to winning, winning the mid. Like reason that we were able to get such a dominant result in the Crows and Geelong and those few of those games where we've actually dominated good teams this year has been actually getting some decent dominance around stoppage and the midfield, and then actually getting deeper balls inside 50, and that's going to again be this game. And then, and you mentioned De Koning being out, but Jack Silvani had probably one of his career games against us back in Gather Round. Callum Wilkie's having a really good year, so it's going to be a game similar to how we played against the Crows. We're going to have to work around, like if we can get the balls inside 50 to contest and bring them to ground, or just get good, whether we fast breaks inside 50 or whatever it may be. We're going to have to work around a pretty good defensive setup, and that really is our kryptonite this year. Is if we just don't get good balls inside 50, it doesn't matter how many inside 50s we get, we could find ourselves in a similar situation to Gather Round if we can't, get a little bit more press upfield and get the balls slightly deeper inside 50. I think the Crows game is a good blueprint as to what we need to do to actually score well. And even in that game, we still underwhelmed the X score, but we still got the score to win because we did enough and got enough in there to have a relatively comfortable win. But it's all there for us. It's just our kryptonite really is going forward from the defensive solidarity and getting decent ball inside 50.
Yeah, very true, very true. The last 2 to 3 weeks though, I think we have made a better effort of getting the ball in closer. Our conversion has just obviously let us down. But
Yeah.
as
As
an
I mean, when
extension
Joe,
of that,
sorry, I
yeah,
was just going to
sorry.
say, yeah, when you've got Joe Berry, and not to denigrate Joe Berry because we love this is a Joe Berry positive podcast, but he's not the only one. When he's missing from pretty close out in front, when Jack Whitlock is hitting the belly of the ball, it is just inconsistency in maturity as well, isn't it? Sorry to throw back to you, but yeah, that
Yeah,
is a good point.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Darren Reeves had a press conference earlier this week, and I'm pretty sure even some of, whether it be Josh Carr or some of the other assistant coaches last week, have alluded to the fact that like they obviously know that we've been taking shots from shallower inside 50 and we need to get closer, and we have made an effort to. And I guess, that, yeah, a lot more ring in the head lately. And Mitch has got those general play goals in the showdown. That's from getting balls in more dangerous areas. And I think obviously it's not all centered around Jack Lukosius, but that obviously helps. And again, to reference the gather round matchup, that was a game where we had Jack Lukosius as a forward, Todd Marshall as a back, and they basically swapped positions within the game. And now we have no Todd. We obviously stuck with Dante Visentini. There was a bit of chat about Van Wyck potentially getting a go this week.
RIP
But
Big Dog's Twitter account.
or Little Puppy, as he's been monikered now. So, yeah, bow for him. Although, yeah, to be objective, Van Wyck was apparently training with the A side in their match
He was, yeah.
simulations. So you can draw conclusions, but you shouldn't state them as fact, is the lesson out of that. But the fact of the matter is there's no Todd. Our defense is more solidified as a unit. They seem to be humming. Like, I don't see any weak points in our defense at the moment, like particularly at the start of the year and at certain points across some of these players' development, you go, they're in some pretty bad form, or they're a weak point due to their inexperience. But it's just a well-rounded system at the moment in terms of the players that are occupying that space. And then so Jack Lukosius can occupy his spot on the wing, enter those balls inside 50. And then also our midfield, I think if you're taking a look at the showdown and our scores from clearance last week against North Melbourne, I think our midfield, the mix is working a lot better together. And that obviously helps when Zach Butters and Jason Horne-Francis are just absolutely fucking like top 5 rated players every week, in their relative games. They're really carrying a big load, but they're the star factor players, and that allows Ollie Wines and the rest. We spoke about Willem Drury and such having low disposal numbers, but it's really just playing your role, as cliche as that is, because we know what we're going to get from those guys, and both of those guys did have good games in Gather Round, but there was just some other issues at play that prevented us from really maximizing their contributions.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm thinking back to Gather Round was a game that we kind of just got some matchups early wrong. It was, trying to, I think it was Jace Berg on to Naz. I'd be interested. Geez, if we try to, Jace Berg, there's a lot of players that have grown since then. I like you were talking about the defenders, and I just think our defensive structure and the players that have got the confidence out of playing in a good defensive structure, like Logan Evans, Lockie Jones, all those guys, and Jace Burgoyne is someone who's been around the defensive structure as well as up the field as well. But I think that first quarter, that gather round match, there was a lot of matchups that went wrong, and I just think the coaching staff will have learnt from that as well, and just won't get those wrong. Like I think you just don't try to overthink it with Naz at the matchup. Just whether you want to tag him or not, don't overthink it with throwing. If Jace Burgoyne, I love the idea of throwing him to him, and look, I think Jace Burgoyne's a better player now than he was even half a year ago. But that felt like a little bit too much of an overthink on that front, and just don't overthink that matchup. Just throw, whether you're going to tag him or not, you've just got to just play the match on its merits. And I just think, and Naz had an incredible game last. What was it, 40 odd disposals last week or whatever it was, something ridiculous as he's prone to do in certain matchups.
46, I think it was.
Oh god, 46! It's insane. I don't like
against
Zach Butters. Yeah, that is the thing. I think I remember Zach Butters having a 43 one at some point. It's just like a poor player having more than 35 is insane usually. So
it's rare, isn't it?
Naz is, but he's not going to have. Well, if he has that game against us, just make sure they're not damaged. Like Harry Sheasel had 40 disposals against us last week, and Jason Horne-Francis's 24 were more damaging. So you've just got to make sure if a player's accumulating ball, you don't have to overreact to it. You've just got to make sure they're not damaging you. And Naz is probably certainly a more per disposal damaging player than a Harry Sheasel, so it's not comparing apples with apples there. But again, don't overthink the matchup, because then you're gonna draw away from other matchups in midfield. Trust in the process and what we've built across the year as well. Despite being hit by injuries and not having the likes of Rosie to throw through there, Jason Horne-Francis, he's spoken this week in the media that he feels like he's grown so much as a leader, and this year has been such a year of growth for him. He and Zach Butters have got such way more synergy than they did 3 months ago as well. So there's a lot of things that have been a lot of points of incredible growth for us in midfield. So maybe back yourselves in, and whether it's you go toe to toe, like it's not like go toe to toe like Nat Fyfe versus Patrick Dangerfield in 2015 kind of stuff, but just you battle against Naz, but don't overthink the matchup and get too fucking football manager about it. Just let it be. Naz is going to get his touches. make sure you quell his influence if he's getting a real run on, like the hot hand, like in fucking NBA 2K. But you just got to manage it rather than you got to give him a little bit of rope to do what Naz is going to do, but just quell it and don't overthink it, and don't get the matchups wrong from the start, because that's their first quarter in gather round was what won them the game essentially, and it's the same as the 2025 matchup as well. We let them get away in the first quarter and we're trying to play catch up the whole way. And when you're trying to play catch up against a Ross line side that you've given 4 goals of rope to, you're going to have a hard time.
And when you can't convert as well,
yeah,
like it doesn't
which
help.
Is just Groundhog Day every week.
But I agree, and the showdown is a great reference point as well, because Jordan Dawson came into that game in red hot form, and basically we didn't tag him until after halftime, and that was more of a put the foot on the throat type move. We just backed our midfield initially, and they were on song. Helped someone we haven't mentioned yet, and that's Jordan Sweet. Again, to reference gather round, he was kind of only a few rounds into his return to the side after not being in the round 1 team. And he was nowhere near in the form that he is in now. And he has historically had good matchups against Rowan Marshall. So they'll be going toe-to-toe in this matchup this weekend. So he's just as much of a midfield contributor as the midfielders, quote unquote. So I think he makes a huge difference, and I agree with you. I'm not going straight to Naz off the bat, because we have the evidence there to suggest that we don't necessarily need to initially. Obviously, you make calls in game, but we've shown basically in all of our good matches, whether they be wins or losses, obviously the honourable losses also count as good matches of football. We've backed ourselves, and we both came on here to review that game earlier in the year, and I was certainly critical of that move. It just seemed a bit too cute to put Jace on, and like you said, he has improved. He showed a lot more authority. Maybe we didn't give him enough credit, even though we put him in our votes. After we rewatched the 4th quarter highlights of Jace just owning Nick Larkey several times, and deciding which one to put as the Wilson Gray nomination. But so he's grown, but by no means does that mean that he should just go to it. Yeah, it seemed a bit cheeky. It seemed a bit too cute. Just with the makeup of St Kilda now, without some of their players, Zach Butters, Jason Horne-Francis, Ollie Wines, Jordan Sweet, back yourself, get it done.
Yeah, absolutely agree, and that's really going to be the tail of the tape. I think defensively we can hold them if the midfield can do their work, and that's just going to come down to the conversion up forward. But very, very much looking forward to just the likes of Josh Lai continuing to do what he does, and it is nice going into a game relatively unchanged. I know the Kane Farrell moves very much like a little bit of the ball movement for the back. Like you want to bring him into, because as good as we are
under the lid as well.
Yeah. Fucking give me an 800 meters gain Kane Farrell game, please. Not to put the pressure on him.
Well, hang on. Yeah, just on a similar train of thought, I want to see the Kane Farrell 60-meter bomb to Jack Lukosius, which is another 60-meter bomb inside 50. Please just let that happen, because we have some penetrating kicks in a couple of lines there now. We need to make full effect. And while you were talking earlier, is this our first Marvel game since the Hawthorn matchup? I'm just trying to think if we've been there since. Because
you could be right.
That game, for all the kind of trepidation of going there and playing, St Kilda this time around, we actually played pretty well, albeit giving them a head start. And wasn't that a theme of that particular time of the season? That one that we haven't really brought up a lot in recent weeks. It's more not converting opportunities rather than slow starts. But Marvel, it showed a good case study for what we can do when the system is working and when our execution is on song. Obviously, we held Hawthorn goalless in that second quarter because we just got the plans right. We shocked them, we executed, we moved the ball well, and we converted on the scoreboard in that particular quarter. So, yeah, you mentioned Josh Lai. It'll be good to see his sticky hands in perfect conditions again. And, yeah, to see that ball movement, hopefully, from the likes of Kane Farrell. And, I mean, Logan Evans can roost a ball too. So can Lockie Jones in that regard. Getting it to your Jack Lukosius of the world. And, I mean, Jace Burgoyne has obviously been occupying more wing time, but, yeah, he moved back late against North Melbourne too.
That's a very good point, and you are correct that this is the first time we're playing at Marvel since that game. And look, that's a game where Todd Marshall looked like a fucking All-Australian, a halfback for the first quarter at least, and so good ball movers from halfback, and yeah, it would be lovely to see Kane Farrell just trot out from the goal square to take a kick in, get to Jack Lukosius, and then hit it like 2 kicks and you're at Mitch Georgiades in his breadbasket or something like that. That would be fucking wonderful.
Within 30.
Yeah, exactly. That would be the cherry on top. I'll be fucking that fucking Vince McMahon like GIF of just like stepping back in my chair. Oh man. An intriguing matchup coming up. Like after all that chat, I mean, if you've got any other points you want to bring up in main points about how we're going to play, but let's get to wrapping this one up. How are you feeling about it, like results wise? What are you predicting? How are you feeling after all that chat we've had about this game?
All the verbiage and I mean, we could go through other matchups and other bits and pieces, but just to bring it back to Weirlo ratings, they've got St Kilda predicted to win by 6.1 points based on the metrics, but that's a 57.3% chance. So
pretty evens.
57% chance that they'll win by 6 points, which I think is pretty favourable still to Port Adelaide in regards to going away on the road, snatch and grab job. But again, what do we want as Port Adelaide fans? Because I'm so conflicted. There's some other matchups in the round around the grounds this weekend that if they go a particular way and Port Adelaide do get revenge on St Kilda, then we could all of a sudden move up like 3 spaces on the ladder kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, I'm nervous. I want Dougie and I want another gun player in the draft. So, yeah. But us Port Adelaide fans, I mean, us football fans, we're competitive animals. That's why we dig football, that's why we love it. So, of course, we want to see our team play well. Like, we want to stick it up Ross. We want to get our own back. And yeah, again, a theme of the preview last week was Josh Carr and the coaching team and the players seem to have learned their lessons against the teams that they've lost and are able to play again in the second half of this season, which fills me with confidence that Port Adelaide can make a good showing of it. Because I think they can win. I just want Dougie though.
Yeah, I guess I'm of the opinion that we're going to get Dougie no matter what, regardless of
yeah.
We'll figure it out.
That's the code.
That is like the Zach Butters thing, whether it be a trade or compensation, whatever it ends up being, whatever that ends up being is going to be something that will end up in us getting Dougie. So I'm like, kind of just at that point where I'm like, but then it would be nice if depending on where we finish, we can somehow figure out a way to also get another player at the top. And like it's like whatever those machinations are. The ultimate thing is, I think the team is going to figure out getting Dougie no matter what. So, and the AFL rules being the way they are, it's all. I don't know. That's a topic for a whole other podcast to go through. How my brain's been trying to figure out tanking and Dougie and the AFL being a bunch of fuckheads. So that's another podcast all in it. But yeah, when it comes down to once we cross the white line this weekend, I'm going to be hoping for obviously I always want to cross the white line, hope for a win, and deal with the machinations of what that win means afterwards. So I think if I was going with my head, I think St Kilda are just kind of in that just the way I don't think we figure everything out this weekend, and maybe we just go in for a. I think my head says we're in honourable loss territory. I think St Kilda might just pip us in a frustratingly low scoring, like 85 to 76 kind of game, maybe like something like that. But I certainly obviously go in hoping for a win. I think we have the capability of doing so. I just think my head says maybe we just drop this one in a close one is how I'm feeling. Like honourable loss territory again. We're not going to get smashed. I think St Kilda have the capability of smashing us, nor do we have the I think our defensive structure holds us in most games this year, every game really, outside of round one, more or less. So, I think it's a good chance for a close one, but one that we may drop. But I'm certainly going to be hoping going in, and I thought we'd drop the showdown, and I thought, we were, last week was going to be close, and both games we were pretty good. So, I'm hoping I'm wrong again. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, and it's certainly a really, really interesting one to see the development of the side. And as you kind of touched on, as we've touched on a lot, the fourth game we're going up against a team that we've played already this year, and we're 3-0 in the return leg so far. So that does provide an intriguing aspect to how the coaches are figuring out things as they go. They're improving as they go, and this game certainly provides another opportunity to do so. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to reviewing it with you all early next week, as we always do. Can't wait to be doing that. And hopefully we can be reviewing a game, win or loss, hopefully a one that's got a lot to chew on, but it would be lovely to be going in with 3 on the bounce. That's what I'm hoping for. My head may be saying loss, but my heart says let's go 3 on the bounce. Bounce, bounce, bounce. Less whistles this week, please, but another win would be nice.
Please. Less whistles. Let's do it. Let's do it, boy.
Yeah. Can the fucking pair.
Can the pair.